You know who else has been balling right now and balling in practice? Brock Purdy, as I segue back to the 49ers.
Look at you. What a pro. Look at that. This is not your first rodeo.
No, it's not. Monday, 5 to 6, the pregame show. Thank you. Brock Purdy, we were talking about it off air. We were comparing the two guys, the two best quarterbacks. Not the two best, but two of the quarterbacks that were in the NFC Championship game. Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts. And just doing a comparison straight down the line. And you said something interesting to me. And we were talking about lack of strength, lack of arm talent and stuff like that. And you made... Tell me again what you were saying with Jalen Hurts.
Well, no, everybody's. If you say Jalen Hurts, you have a regular conversation. You say Brock Purdy, and all of a sudden people are like, he's small. Okay, I'm looking at it right now. Jalen Hurts is 6'1", 223 pounds. Brock Purdy is 6'1", 220 pounds. Man, those 3 pounds sure make a huge difference, I guess, huh? The 3 pounds that Hurts has
Larry,
is just a monster difference between Hurts and Purdy. It's the same body type.
When you look at them, though, it's not the same body type.
Well, Hurts can squat like 1,100 pounds.
He's more toned in the biceps, stuff like that. You know, he's toned.
What?
Come on. Yes. Just look at, I'm just saying, look at the physical stature of both those guys and tell me which one is the better athlete. Like, come on. Well, Jalen Hurts is the better athlete, right?
Jalen Hurts has the better 40 time.
Yes.
But I think Brock's got the better 10-yard split.
You see all those QB sneaks he was doing in the Super Bowl?
He's got incredibly strong legs. But then Brock Purdy also, they call him Mini Bosa. He's got pretty thick lower legs. Pretty thick legs. I'm just saying they're body type wise, very, very similar body type. I mean, we're talking about guys that literally are this exact same height and are separated by 3 pounds.
Okay.
I mean, it's a fact.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
You're doubting Brock.
I'm skeptical on Brock Purdy, and I think a lot of 49ers fans are, and I'll take that side. I'll be the skeptic today because I think it's rightful to be skeptic about it. The reason you got Trey Lance and why people are so frustrated is because you wanted to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. You were done with the limited skill set. You were done with the limited physical skill set of a Jimmy Garoppolo. He kept getting hurt. I wanted Trey Lance in here because he gives me that, that Josh Allen type. He gives me something big, strong to look forward to. He's that next future of the NFL. We see the AFC. Why is it dominated by them? Because they have the Herberts. They have the Mahomes. That's why we wanted Trey Lance. And it was just frustrating how it all shook out. Obviously, it was no one's fault. Trey got hurt. You can blame Kyle Shanahan if you want. That's fine. He took his lumps. He took the blame. He took the fault. He said, you know what? I failed Trey. That's fine. I think ultimately it was just a freak thing. He got hurt. It is what it is. They needed to move on. They're in a win now mode, and they can't let this guy develop right now. But the reason they got him is because of the physical skill sets. And the reason they have Sam Darnold, another guy with the strong arm, the physical tools, another guy that was drafted in the top 5 to the New York Jets a few years ago out of USC, was, again, the physical skill sets. I'm not saying that if Brock goes down at some point this year, Sam Darnold comes in and takes the job. But if he struggles at points and that arm talent and the arm concerns are there, is it the craziest thing in the world if they go to Sam Darnold and he lights it up 1 week or 2 weeks in a row? And you know what? They stick with the hot hand going forward. Is that the craziest thing, Larry Krueger?
I mean, it's not crazy. I think there's a much better chance that your team is going, the Raiders is going to be
crazy.
Maybe.
I think it's a better chance that Aiden O'Connell takes over for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Probably, but there's no Super Bowl aspirations for the Raiders this year. Not in that conference.
This year or next year or the year after or in the foreseeable future.
We can just poke fun at the Raiders right now. I didn't bring them up.
I'm just saying. I think you're right and you're wrong. I don't think that they went after Trey Lance because he was 6'4", 230. I think they went after a quarterback on a rookie deal. I'm not even 100% convinced they even really wanted Trey Lance. They may have wanted Mac Jones. I heard Kyle Shanahan say yesterday, we went up with the idea that one of 2 guys. Well, the other guy was Mac Jones.
Did he really say that? He said they went up to the idea of 1 or 2 guys?
One of 2 guys.
So they traded up for the spot, not the quarterback.
Right. They traded up saying, we're going to get Mac Jones or we're going to get Trey Lance. And they opted to go with Trey Lance. And I endorsed it at the time. I thought it was the better decision. They fell in love with Trey's character. They looked at the macro view of the thing. But they made a mistake because they looked at the macro view of the quarterback prospect, but then they were looking at a micro view of the development. And so I think more than the 6'4", 230, they wanted a quarterback on a rookie deal so they could keep Ayuk, keep Bosa, keep Debo, keep Kittle, keep Warner, keep Greenlaw. And that's what. So if you heard Kyle talk about it, he's like, "Hey, we traded up because we wanted to go younger and cheaper at the quarterback spot, and we gave the kid 2 years. It didn't happen." I kind of think it's a mistake that they pivoted after 2 years because they drafted the most raw quarterback maybe in the last 40 years in the first round, and they gave him 2 years to work out. It didn't work out, and now they're moved off of him. I wouldn't have moved off of him.
Well, if that's the case, if you believe they were just going for the rookie deal and trying to get all these other guys signed, that's fine. But
there's no doubt.
If that's the case, you got to start him immediately. Like if we're doing hindsight here, they should have started Trey Lance week 1 when he was a rookie in Detroit. They should have done that. Like, rip the Band-Aid off. Move on from Jimmy Garoppolo.
And the bigger problem, though, because the bigger problem was when they drafted him. They should have drafted Trey Lance in the same draft that they drafted Solomon Thomas in, because that's when they were bad. That's when they had time to develop a quarterback and not worry about the standings. They drafted Trey Lance after they were well within their Super Bowl window, and then they just kind of, and it didn't match up. It was like they took one view of the quarterback and they didn't take a realistic view of where they were as a franchise. And then they gave Trey a couple years to develop. He didn't develop the way they wanted to or as fast as they wanted to, and they moved off of him. If you ask me what's Kyle's biggest mistake of the quarterback decisions that he's made, I think it's the most recent one. I think it's bringing in Sam Darnold and getting rid of Trey Lance. I think history's going to prove me correct on that. We'll see. Right now, you got Purdy, so you don't need Lance. But ultimately, what they really wanted, they wanted the quarterback on a rookie deal that would enable them to keep their roster together. And now they have that.
They have it.
They have that. They've got everything they want. They've got the guy who's ready to win now and is developed and ready to play now and win games now. And they've got the quarterback who's got, 2-3 more years left on his rookie deal?
2, I think, right? They can start negotiating after these next 2, I believe.
So there you go. I think isn't it 4 years on your rookie deal?
Correct. But
so he's only played 1, so doesn't he have 3?
So 888-957-9570. Help us out with that. We'll ask Grant Cohn that at 8:30. He can let us know about that. Also, Mike Yam, NFL Network at 8 o'clock. But what
do you think of that? I mean, what do you think? Because to me, a lot of people would say, "Oh, they screwed up by taking Solly over Mahomes." Yeah, but think about that. Go back and think about that draft. Kyle Shanahan didn't even get named the head coach until like February 9th of 2017. They were already 7 months behind in their draft prep. If you ask scouting departments, when do you start your draft prep? You started it last night. Florida and Utah. I guarantee you the Niners had a scout in Logan for Florida, Utah last night. That's where the road to the draft starts, the beginning of the college football season. These guys didn't even get hired until a couple weeks before the combine. So they opted to punt on that draft class at quarterback with an eye at, hey, Kirk Cousins will be a free agent in a couple of years. I was partly about Kirk, but I think it was partly because they had already missed the entire college football's regular season, the entire bowl season, and they were jumping in late. And, they're looking at Mahomes and going, well, let's see, he played at Texas Tech, and he's coming out of the air raid, and he's sub 500, and it's a little bit of a tough projection. Let's just go the safe route. We'll go with an impact defensive player, and we'll look towards Kirk Cousins in the future. And a year later, Jimmy dropped in their lap, and everything kind of changed. But I think it was the right mentality. But in reality, you needed, because it's always risky to draft a quarterback in the first round. History tells us that. But they probably should have, it's easy now in hindsight to go, they should have drafted Mahomes. Yeah, but Mahomes was 13-16 at Texas Tech coming out of an air raid system that had produced a bunch of nobodies. Here's the quarterbacks that played in the air raid: Sam Bradford, Cliff Kingsbury, Davis Webb, Tim Couch, Kevin Cobb, Case Keenum, Johnny Manziel, Brandon Whedon, Jared Goff, Geno Smith, John Beck. I mean, it's like Nick Foles, Graham Harrell, Josh Heupel. I mean, basically...
You named some guys that went to Super Bowls in there, though.
Yeah,
Goff, Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Won a Super Bowl.
But, look at the vast majority of those guys busted in the NFL.
Yeah, so, but that's going to happen with most things, right? Though,
right, but if you're looking at that going air raid, if you're saying, hey, a sub 500 quarterback with a lot of skills who played in the air raid and was 13-16 in college, I don't fault them now. Now we got 20/20 hindsight. Now we can say, man, you should have taken Mahomes. How did you not take Mahomes?
Real quick, Larry, I think the problem is when you have your GM and John Lynch say, what was it, a year or two ago? Yeah, we were looking at this guy Mahomes, and we thought maybe we had to throw our whole draft board out and draft him. Why would you say that? Because that tells me as a fan, like, well, you were in on him, so you did look at him, so you could have taken him. And then you didn't. And now we still have this quarterback debacle under you and Shanahan going into year, whatever it is now, the seven.
Yeah.
It's like that's wild. So yes, I understand the fans getting upset at something like that. And I think ultimately that's why there is this still.
But it's 2020 hindsight.
Well, yes, but also.
I mean, it's literally
also
like the commercial of Brett Favre.
But you come out and say it, though. But that's the thing. But John Lynch came out and said that. He didn't have to say that. But he did say, Patrick Mahomes, we looked at him and almost threw our whole draft board for the guy.
Well, first of all, you didn't have to trade the whole draft board. You had the second pick in the draft.
The whole draft, I was saying. Like he's
like, you didn't have to. They could have just taken him 2. He went 10.
They should have done that.
They didn't even have to trade up. I mean, they would have had. He was sitting there for them. But I mean, the fact that he went 10 and he had these gaudy individual stats tells you that there was kind of maybe an uneven thought process from a number of NFL teams on Mahomes going into that draft.
I think the fact that we call Kyle Shanahan a quarterback guru when he still has a quarterback question mark into year 7, I think it's a little ridiculous.
Well, he's not a quarterback guru.
He's not,
I mean, whoever's calling him a quarterback guru, he's not.
He's not.
I mean, he's not. What he is an outstanding offensive play caller, play sequencer. His offense works.
Okay.
He got to a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is mid at best. He got to a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy last year as a rookie in year 1 in his system. I mean, you got to give Shanahan some credit for being a quarterback's friend in that he's got a play-action passing offense that works. They averaged 33 points a game last year with Brock Purdy. That's number 1 in the NFL by 4 points.
The one thing I will say on this, and it's a small sample size, and we'll see how it plays out this year, but the trust factor and level with Brock Purdy compared to everyone else under Shanahan in the 49ers era, it's sky high. He trusts the hell out of this guy. Like,
he does.
He's talked about that they share this kind of like, not telepathy, but they're on the same wavelength when it comes to seeing the field and seeing this offense. And that's a huge thing. Trust. Jimmy Garoppolo, hell, we've played the sound bites. There wasn't a lot of trust there after all the injuries and how things went down. There was not a big trust factor. You've seen the clips. This guy's plays effing suck on the sideline, all this sort of stuff from Jimmy and Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, and you saw the way Kyle coached in the playoffs in the 19 run to the bowl. Jimmy looked awful in that first playoff game. Was it against Minnesota?
Yeah.
And then he basically just took the ball out of his hands.
Yep.
So we're going to run. We're just going to run. They ran all the way to the Super Bowl. They needed to lean on Jimmy in the bowl against Kansas City, and he wet the bed.
Yeah.
So he didn't believe in Jimmy. I think the one thing that the Niners really wanted that Mahomes gives the Chiefs, and Herbert and Allen give their teams respectively, is that off-schedule movement ability. I mean, Mahomes is not a sprinter. He's not Michael Vick, but he can move in the pocket.
He's strong, too.
And the one thing about Purdy that I think they like is the fact that you got the play that you call in the huddle, but then he also has that 1-5-4 10-yard split, and he can escape. And he's got mobility to kind of get to that second platform and still keep his eyes, downfield, and he can make a play. And we saw it a bunch last year. I mean, that play that he made where he scrambled to his left and then all the way back right and found Ayuk in the corner, and Ayuk just dropped it. It ricocheted off his hands.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Jimmy Garoppolo never made that play. The entire tenure of his 49er time, he never made a play like that.
From the 408 on the Xfinity Mobile text line at 888-957-9570, Lance was a miss. Get over it. History will show that to be the case. Well, history's already shown that he was a miss because he's already been traded to the Dallas Cowboys. But I appreciate you chiming on for it. We'll see.
We'll see.
But he was a miss for the 49ers. Yes. Like already we can agree on that. Like,
but
obviously.
Vernon Davis, Spadoni says that he's going to be, he's eventually going to be a good quarterback. And I'm not saying Vernon knows all, but I agree with Vernon. I just think that Trey was an incredibly raw prospect, and they just got tired of developing him, and I think they didn't like the divisive nature of the conversation. It had gotten to a point where it was a distraction. You can't have your entire fan base debating constantly about the second and third quarterbacks on your team. It's just, second and third quarterbacks need to be seen and not heard. And that level of dialogue was a distraction. They'll never admit it. They'll talk about the cap and what's best for Trey, but that to me is my read on it. They didn't love the dialogue going on around, this constant drumbeat of Trey, when they felt like they had evaluated him and that he was nowhere close to being ready And, we'll find out how it goes for him in Dallas. I think they pivoted too quickly. I think they'll eventually come back and regret it, but it may take 2 or 3 years.